My brain gets scrambled anytime I start talking about like UFOs or anything of that nature. I think just because I'm so bloody excited and I'm like, there's so many aspects to it.
Yeah, the issue with the Joe Rogan one was like Rogan would ask him questions, he's like, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
To every question he asked him.
Well, yeah, because
He
he's
didn't do that as
putting
much.
it all up. Well, that's good. I mean,
he did take full credit for the UFOs being exposed by the U.S. government. He's like, I did that.
Yeah. So he's,
yeah.
Oh, I mean, I would rather him take credit than Jeremy Corbell, but that's just because that's a whole nother thing. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
You mean Jeremy Corbell? No, I'm kidding.
Dude, well, the one episode that I put up where we were talking about Jeremy Corbell, I got some hate on that. They're like, Jeremy Corbell never said anything like that. It's like, all right.
Just be like, have you ever talked to Jeremy Corbell? Didn't think so.
Yeah. One day I'll talk to Jeremy Corbell and hopefully he won't know that I didn't like his filmmaking.
No, you would just bring it up right off the bat and be like, hey, I said this.
Yeah. You think that that's how it should go down? I should just be like, hey, buddy.
I think so.
Well, all right. So let's get down to it because today we're going to be doing our TLDR series and we are going to be diving into the Destination Truth Memoirs of a Monster Hunter by none other than our good buddy, Josh Gates, who is not yet our buddy, but will be.
Yeah, hopefully.
Anyway, so Jesse, what do you know actually about anything about Josh Gates as a individual?
I just watch his TV shows.
Yeah, all the Destination X or the Truth Destination or whatever, Exploration Unknown, all the
Expedition Unknown.
So we've got a lot to cover about Josh Gates and really mostly about how he even became the TV mogul that he is now. Would you like to learn a little bit about Josh Gates?
Let's get cracking.
Yeah, let's get. Oh my God,
as the British say,
cracking, as in the sea monster. All right, well, we're gonna start off. Let's start off.
And it's a liquor too.
Oh yeah, the Kraken rum.
It's made from giant squid blood. Fun fact people need to know.
I don't think that's true. So
fact check me.
I think I will. In fact, it's like I drank that a lot, and I definitely never knew that. But anyway, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Josh Gates' first book, Memoirs of a Monster Hunter, basically retelling his life through becoming the host of Destination Truth, which was one of my favorite shows ever. I used to do. I would watch Destination Truth, and then I would like go to sleep, but I would turn on every light in the house and I would not go back to turn them off because I was just like, that noise.
Yeah. So now like his Expedition Unknown, he has like a little spin-off. There's always 2 episodes that plays.
Yeah.
The second episode, he like has 2 people that work for him. And then they investigate the paranormal stuff. He investigates like more like the hunting for treasure or something like that.
Yeah, because he's become kind of more like he was looking for Templar gold and he was doing things like that. I believe that he has a degree in archaeology or something like that. And I think that's definitely more of his forte. Yeah, like he did in fact go and like do a lot of he did like paranormal or cryptids, mostly that for Destination Truth. And that was all basically because he had to, but they just like this one, they always had 2 episodes. It would be like back to back. So they would do like, he'd go find like, some sea monster in like Thailand. And then he'd go to like, the Himalayas or whatever. Let's take
was he messing with those lady boys and found a sea monster?
He does have, there was a little, there's something in here about that, but he didn't really get into that.
Not to that effect.
Not to that effect, no. So I'm going to just take a little start off here. We're going to go into the first chapter of Josh Gates' book. And this just kind of gives us an overview of like what was going on, all the crazy antics that happened to him. So I'm going to take you back to Romania. And this chapter is called We Must Go Back. Wind is suddenly screaming into the cockpit of this aged Antonov biplane. Charts and a half-assed handwritten flight plan whipped by my face and through the cockpit door into the main cabin. In the rear of the plane, our director of photography, Evan, who has been filming out the open door, is suddenly thrust forward towards the edge of the open space, only to be yanked to a stop by his 4-point harness. Documents eject past him and into oblivion. The sound is deafening, and the pressure change is so abrupt that I try and brace my arm against the roof to steady myself. Instead, my hand is forcefully bent backwards by what feels like icicles slicing through my fingers. I instinctively retract. Open air. I'm immediately overwhelmed by a terrible realization. The cockpit ceiling is gone. So that is just a little taste of what he was experiencing in Romania back in 2009. This is, I believe, is the midst of him filming Destination Truth, and it's just kind of one of the many incredible encounters that he had going on during that time. Our audio engineer, Mike, has the common sense to kick the pilot's door shut from the first row seat behind me, closing off the wind tunnel coursing through the interior of the plane and sealing me into the roofless cockpit. Moments ago, I was actually bored, fiddling with the camcorder to get a close-up view of the plane's antiquated controls and weathered gauges, the altimeter needle quivering from the vibration of the plane's
altimeter.
Altimeter? Oh, yes, your brother would know that, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Is that how you know? Anyway, yeah.
Yes.
The pilot, a stout Russian in a thick wool sweater, was languidly operating the stick. Now I'm craning back to get a view of the tail stabilizer through the gaping maw above me, praying the debris from the roof hasn't clipped it on its way by. I think twice about unbuckling my harness for a better look and instead concentrate on the ground below me, which is slowly getting closer by the second. So basically, he's in a perilous encounter. The roof of the actual plane has been like ripped off. He's in this
perilous encounter. Why was that a perilous encounter? Isn't that just like
what happened?
Is this a hallucination or
no?
like
this is
his plane like actually like got fucked.
Yeah, so they're like, so what's going on is he's up in the plane. They're doing like a flyby because they're at this point. There's an episode that they go to the Hoyu forest, which is a big haunted forest in Romania, where there's actually
stay away the hell from there.
Yeah, but there's like a big circle where nothing grows in there, and they were trying to get a shot from the plane, but they were in such just a derelict plane that the thing actually just started coming apart as they're like doing this flyby. So all of that, what I just read was his experience basically being inside of a plane and having the entire cockpit roof ripped off while he's shooting.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely terrifying.
Right?
Obviously he survived. Did they have to jump out of the plane?
No, they land and everything, but it's definitely one of those things where this is the first chapter of the book, kind of trying to set the pace for the craziness that is his entire career in Destination Truth.
Is he related to Bill Gates?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he is.
I think so.
No, I mean, like, he seems like.
My girlfriend asked me that.
Oh, really?
I was like, no, he's not. I was like, he's not related to Bill Gates.
That would have been wild, though. I mean, maybe that's how he got the gig. No, I'm just kidding, because we know how he got the gig from this book, which I'm about to read to you. All right, so let's just get a little bit more in depth with the book here. So Josh is going to be going to Tanzania, Africa, where he is going to, this is before Destination Truth. We're taking a step backwards again. The year is 2005, and Josh has always been kind of a adventurer, so to speak, as obviously, you see in the show, but this is his real life. The landscape. All right. So I'm taking you to Tanzania. The landscape is utterly alien, and a soupy mist clings to the rock face by my side. I run my hand along the smooth stones for balance, my fingers red from the icy water trickling down above. Just before sunset, my group and I finally stumble into Shira camp. The darkening haze is punctured by the welcome sight of dozens of glowing orange tent domes. This is one of several camps that temporarily cradle countless expeditions ascending the side of Kilimanjaro. But our relief at arriving here is short-lived. Rain suddenly buckets down and porters scramble to assist with tents as night arrives unceremoniously. By the time I finally get to my own shelter, water is seeping through the seams of the floor. I'm shaking cold as I strip down, searching for drier clothes. I came to Africa as something as of a personal challenge. Almost exactly a year before this day, I looked in the mirror and decided to change who I saw looking back. I had been living in Los Angeles for more than 5 years, hustling to find work as an actor while slowly building a photography business on the side. But contrary to my naive expectations, being a Hollywood actor slash photographer did not automatically come hand in hand with the disposable income and the company of beautiful models. So to support my ambitions and pay my rent, I was mostly waiting tables. So this man who now is larger than life had very humble beginnings, like
like everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of like why when I first picked up the book all those years ago, I really found it to hit me home, because it was like, oh, dude, like, he was struggling. He was waiting tables. He wanted to do all sorts of bullshit before he ended up actually doing anything. And so a year prior to him deciding to get out and do something, I wouldn't say different, but he kind of wanted to get involved in something greater than himself. And that's how he ended up here in trying to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So Josh went to Tufts University, and he actually double majored in drama and archaeology. And yeah, that's how he got his, start, really. He was doing an archaeology degree as well as a theater degree, or drama, I guess. And that's kind of how
you can relate to him.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you saying, that I do drama or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing that I was kind of like, okay, I've heard that before. And it's interesting too, because like personally, I always wanted to be an explorer, and an archaeology degree was always something that seemed like really neat to me, or like Egyptology.
But it pays like shit.
Well, right. So let's go back to the book. Luckily, my parents were empathetic. My mother, a vivacious and free-spirited young woman, grew up in tumultuous 1960s England, and somehow found my father, a charming American deep-sea diver and self-made man. The two of them were endlessly supportive of my interests and passed on to me their humor and confidence to follow my own path, as they had done. So he has pretty much got his own, support system. It's kind of nice to have, like, your family backing you, but he's always been an adventurer. He's always been kind of go get him. And that's kind of why I think that a lot of people end up like really finding him. Like, I don't know. What do you like about Josh Gates, if you have anything that you did like about him?
I'm not going to say what I just thought. It was funny
though. I don't even, I don't know.
He's, you can tell he's very passionate about what he does. And like, just in like the TV show, I know like it's probably scripted and shit, but I mean, you can tell he definitely has a passion for like exploring and like figuring out the unknown. And that really gets his, like, trips his trigger. Like, it ignites a flame inside of him.
And that's kind of why I think that, passion is the way to go. If you like doing something, fucking go whole hog. I mean, that's why you go.
Hog. Yeah, whole hog. Don't half hog it.
Yeah, no half hogging. Anyway, back to the book. But with no prospects for actually earning a dime as a young archaeologist, I tried my hand at acting, a passion since my breakout performance as Bottom in a high school production of Midsummer's Night Dream. With Los Angeles casting directors somehow overlooking the rave reviews from my hometown newspaper, the Manchester Cricket, I was auditioning often, but working little. I found myself jumping at every opportunity I could to leave LA and escape to the unknown. I had already driven across America 7 times, canvassing every state in the country, save one. I'm coming for you, Oregon. I had been in Europe, the Caribbean, Mexico, and Bangladesh, and spent several summers in Israel excavating the ruins of the Roman city of Castanera. I probably butchered that completely. Travel, when undertaken habitually, becomes a potential intoxicant. After all, who among us hasn't stared at a perfume ads, Corona commercials, and Thai Airway billboards and been lost in the coconut-scented what if? So I also like how Josh Gates kind of inputs his own humor and shit into this kind of book. It's kind of more personable that way. A little bit ridiculous at times, some of the stuff he says, but at the same time, you kind of get the whole scope of the adventure. Oh yeah. So now we're going to basically what set him off. He's like, then I looked in the mirror. I felt older. I wasn't a kid in school anymore. I was considerably overweight, bored, and generally unhappy, which some of us find ourselves in more than we'd like to admit. I tried to combat the malaise. Never. Well, okay. Maybe you're generally unhappy, but you're never not considerably overweight, right?
I'm a generally pretty happy person, Patrick.
I know. I'm fucking with you. Look at that face,
hey,
man.
Liquid Death.
Oh, dude. I kind of want that. I kind of want to go get a.
It's delicious,
dude. It is, and like, there's a buddy of mine that I was working with, and he only got the non-sparkling kind, and I'm like,
I haven't even tried the sparkling kind. I only get the non-sparkling. I stick to the LaCroix and the Topo Chico for sparkling.
Fair enough.
I haven't tried it yet.
I think that
I'm sure it's delicious.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, because I was like, why would you drink the other one? But I mean, at the same time, it's still good water.
Like, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, Liquid Death. If you want to sponsor us. All right. So, right now he's unhappy with his life. He's like, oh man, I got to do something. So I tried to combat this malaise by going to the gym with some regularity. Without a specific goal, though, I slipped back into bad habits and comfortable routines. So, what are you going to do, man? Classic.
Like most of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to pop on over to the actual adventure that he gets into. All right.
So when was this book written?
You'd be surprised. I believe it was written in, oh my goodness, it was 2011. It's literally like a 11-year-old book, which is kind of funny because in it, so if you look at so on the front of it, it has like, it's like the host of the SYFY show, or the host of the SYFY series, and it's spelled like SYFY, like SYFY. Well, in the book, and because he wrote this like before they did their little name change, it was still like SYFY, like the channel back when they had like the old logo. So it's kind of funny because in here you keep on getting like, he's just like SYFY, and you're like, what is this? Yeah. Anyway, thinking back on it now, I can't remember what turned me on to the idea of climbing a mountain, because he's going to go to Kilimanjaro because he just, get out there, adventure. Beyond the stairs to my apartment, I don't think I'd ever climbed anything in my life, let alone one of those famed seven summits, let alone one of the famed seven summits. But once I settled on the idea, Kilimanjaro seemed a logical choice. Along with being suitably exotic, Kili is a non-technical climb that offered exactly what I was looking for. A goal that would challenge me, but probably not kill me. So,
he wanted to figure out who Jaro was. And he wanted to kill him.
Yeah, he knew what like, Kili was. You got to go up Jaro.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to the book. It takes about a week to ascend Kilimanjaro, with stops at various camps to acclimate to the extreme altitude. Each day becomes progressively harder as the thin mountain air provides less sustenance. We are climbing what is known as the Machima route, or whiskey route, so named because it's decidedly more serious than the standard Marangou route. Oh my goodness, I did not expect.
Well, I mean, why would you go the easy route,
Yeah, right. Why would you do that? Once the rain passes at Shira Camp, Aaron, Colin, and I, his buddies who he's taken along with the journey, then crowd into a single tent to keep warm and engage in our nightly ritual of playing Scrabble. It's New Year's Eve. At 10 minutes to midnight, we put down our wooden game tiles, down our jackets, and shuffle out into the cold. Early in the evening, we invited strangers from all over the camp to join us, and for the few minutes, it looks like as if nobody's going to show. Then, tent by tent, lanterns come on, zippers unzip, and a group of healthy souls emerge to ring in the new year on the frigid side of a dormant volcano. So,
Are they peeing on the volcano?
No.
The zippers unzipped.
Yeah, all the tents. Everybody's coming out of their tents.
Oh, tents.
They're at the Shira camp, so they're about to ascend. Now we kind of okay, so they've celebrated. They're having a good time. It's an adventure. We're in a good spot. The next day, our guide. Let's see. Hold on. Apologize. I have to look at my notes here.
You shouldn't apologize. It's better you look at your notes than just talk out your ass.
That is true. I appreciate the thought.
Yeah.
All right. So the next day, our guide calls us aside and asks if we'd like to alter our route to a trail known as the Western Breach. This takes me by surprise, since we'd carefully chosen the Machima route almost a year ago. It's unorthodox to make a change like this mid-climb, and it takes a few minutes of listening to his pitch while carefully studying a map to realize what he's proposing. The new route would be nearly 2 full days shorter and therefore financially beneficial to the porters, who could deposit us back to Moshi early and link in with their next group. We discussed the option, but it involves a much more direct ascent to a campsite perched inside the summit crater. Aaron has already lost his appetite at this altitude, and the climbing faster seems a dangerous gamble. We choose to stay on course. I didn't know it at the time, but this decision may actually have saved our lives. So, they're working with this local porter. They're if you know anything about like just climbing, like the plan for mountain climbing is always pretty much like you got to stick to it, because like anything could go wrong. You could, altitudes, certain.
Yeah, I watched that documentary on NIMS.
Yeah, on NIMS.
Yeah, did you not watch that, Joe Rogan? I'm disappointed in you.
Oh, NIMS. Yeah, the guy who climbed K2 and all that.
Well, no, he climbed all of the ones that were above.
Yeah, the 7 whatever.
20,000 feet. Yeah. Within
that's
6 months.
Yeah, that was
incredible.
Insane. Right? You should also watch, there's another documentary called Meru, which is the first one I ever watched, with Jimmy Chin. And that was an intense one, because they're actually like, with the fucking pics and everything. Like,
yeah. Oh, no, these guys were too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so then
man.
It documented him doing every single one of them too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
he did it in like 6 months or some shit. So like, what the hell compelled you to do that shit?
And just to fucking survive it, like, because I mean, like taxing, like you have to come back, because, well, I'll get to it, but Josh and his buddies, just on this one, which is kind of a cheap one, Kilimanjaro is kind of takes a toll on him.
Yeah.
Our expedition from our outfitter traveling along this more direct route will be caught in a rock slide cascading from the summit. When the dust settles, 3 American climbers will be dead. Several more will be seriously injured and airlifted to Nairobi. News of this won't reach my team until we return to Moshi. And for now, the sight of a distant helicopter circling around the far side of the summit barely catches my attention. So yeah, they were going to go on another direct route, and literally a rock slide ended up killing like an actual expedition that was already like going up higher than they were. So
insane.
I know, right? Like, especially like them just choosing to, they're like, I guess we could do this rock, do this different ascent.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, it sounds like a better idea.
Yeah.
That won't happen to us. That's what every dead person says, if they could say something.
Yeah. As at the so now they're continuing their ascent. They're actually about to make it to the top. As the first incandescent glow of the morning arrives, we lower our hoods and remove our goggles. My knees have had it. Aaron seems exhausted, and
Colin he was on him all night.
Yeah. What? My knees have had it. Aaron seems exhausted, and Colin looks like death frozen over. His face is an unrecognizable shade of gray, and he is now coughing up blood. After a few false rises on the trail, we encounter the huge wall of glacial ice that rests atop Kilimanjaro's peak. In the far distance, I spot a wooden sign and quietly begin to cry. I continue trudging forward, embarrassed that my teammates will see my tears, but I really can't contain myself. I've looked at pictures of that sign 1,000 times in preparation for this moment. Though I'm still too far away, I can read it. I begin to recite it in my head. Congratulations, you are now at Uhuru Peak, Tanzania, 5,895 meters above sea level, I guess. Africa's highest point, world's highest freestanding mountain, one of the world's largest volcanoes. Welcome. We take a few last steps together, touch the sign, and embrace. Emotions are now freely flowing, and we turn to look out at the vista that I'm far too poor a wordsmith to describe. The African Maasai, that's the tribe that lives in Kenya, and probably that whole region.
Can you not?
Call it Nagai, the house of God. We'll just leave it at that. So yeah, basically they're just like, they make it up to the summit. It's been intense. They're like all basically dying. One of them's coughing up blood. The other one's basically like completely exhausted, and
Josh's knees are screwed.
Yeah. Josh's knees aren't doing so hot. So yeah, Josh is, they have a taxing ascent, and their climbing group doesn't seem to really possess the energy to talk. So now they make their way quickly down, mostly to get their companion to a doctor because he is absolutely fucking screwed. Like, he's just not doing so hot. So one of their buddies is.
Do they have to take oxygen on this hike?
I don't think so. It's not that tall, I don't think. No, I don't think they have to do that, but it's still like, pretty intense and everything. They get down, they learn about the climbers that they had, basically met like the weeks before that are actually dead. It kind of goes into detail about that, but well, anyway. In the ensuing years, people have sometimes told me that they've heard Kilimanjaro is an easy climb. What I took away from witnessing the broken climbers in Moshi was everything is easy until it isn't. It's a philosophy that has served me well. Never underestimate any situation while traveling. At any moment, even a gentle slope can collapse. It's best to be ready for it, which is, pretty sobering.
I definitely think I live like my life like that.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, I always think before something happens, and I give myself anxiety because of that.
Yeah.
I always think of the worst thing. I'm like, what if this happens?
All right.
Usually nothing. 10 times out of 10, nothing happens. But
yeah,
I still think about it.
Well, dude, and that's probably what's kept you like. It's probably gonna in the future get you out of a situation that could possibly turn deadly or something like that. Because you.
Yeah. I'm always thinking about it.
Right.
It's bad.
So anyway, at this point, they've heard of the deaths and everything, and everybody's worried about them, like their families, all of his buddies. They're like, oh no, we heard that, a bunch of people got killed in a rock climbing accident. So they basically go to an internet cafe, and Josh is combing through his emails, and he says, back to the book. Among the many messages, I noticed one from a producer in Los Angeles. It's marked urgent. I click it and find a single sentence staring back at me. Wherever you are, come home now. All right. So he goes and he gets a bunch of emails, or he's checking his emails in an internet cafe in the city. And and now we're going to meet the main, basically the guy who found Josh and realized his talents. Chapter 3.
He found him on the mountain.
No, I mean,
and saved him.
No, we'll talk about it. How about that?
I'm just kidding.
You dog, you.
Yeah, I'm not like Austin, am I?
No, it's it's very refreshing. All right, so chapter 3 is called Meet Neil Mandit. This is Hollywood, California, 2006. The author of this email is a Hollywood television producer named Neil Mandit, who is, without a doubt, the most well-traveled person I've ever met. To know Neil is to know or to have a strong opinion about him. He's a short-statured producer with a lot of irons and a lot of fires, even if half of those fires are the result of arson. He's got a few Emmys, a very successful show on ESPN, a bachelor pad in the Hollywood Hills, and an expensive sports car. These are all facts of which Neil will happily remind you about. At a cocktail party, he once called me over to 2 Swedish lingerie models and demanded indignantly, "Tell these girls who I am." So basically,
got a big head over here.
Yeah, but hey, man, I also like to think of myself as the Neil Mandit of all you guys. I'm kind of. Hey, man, you just wait, dude. You're gonna be like singing my praise pretty soon when we get picked up. You know what I'm saying?
What song should I sing?
Fucking Pat's the best goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I've never heard that song, so if you could send it over,
you're gonna be the one who's gonna be writing it.
You don't want me to write it.
I don't. I really don't. I replied, "Ladies, this is Neil. He's kind of a prick." Neil didn't find that as funny as I did, or as the two girls.
I found that hilarious.
But when underwear models are in play, all bets are off. Those are the rules, Neil. Those are the rules. So again, we get some of, Josh's very, very, very sharp humor. That's the one thing I like about him. That's probably
I like his humor.
Yeah. That's one of those things that I think like drew me to him, especially because I saw this show like 11 years ago. So I was like 16, 17. Probably even before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a word, Neil is shameless. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Just the opposite. His brash, straight shooter disposition makes him a true original, not to mention a deliciously embarrassing wild card in public. So, basically his buddy Neil has emailed him and is like, hey, brother, we need you to come home. I got a gig for you.
And then Josh Gates was like, what's the deal, Neil?
I mean, basically, let's see. So now we're going to learn where he met Neil. To the book again. I first met Neil when I moved into his old place, a sweltering apartment with no air conditioning on the 12th floor of a Hollywood high-rise. I spent most of my 5-year residency in my underwear attempting to avoid heat exhaustion as blistering sunshine baked in through the large bay windows. Essentially, this is like Josh just talking about how he's like, man, dude, like it's been a wild ride. Like this is mostly just kind of calling back to the fact that he's had like a lot of hard times, trying to find.
Patrick.
Yep. Trying to find, going back to his roots.
Yep.
So Neil had relocated to another unit in the building, and we occasionally chatted in the halls. One day while we rode together in the elevator, Neil turned to me and said, I just sold a competition reality show to ESPN. You'd be perfect for it. He asked me to turn in a 2-minute audition tape. The show was designed as a cross-country race where 2 teams would bullshit their way across America with no money and only the clothes on their backs. Along the way, contestants would attempt to complete difficult sports-related challenges. Now, I'm not much for sports, but I am full of bullshit. Practically invented this stuff. This project seemed right up my alley.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's too young to invent bullshit. People have been bullshitting all their fucking since the beginning of time.
I immediately cleared my schedule of waiting tables at a steakhouse inside the Magic Castle and a private club for private club for professional magicians, about which I could fill a 3-volume expose.
Oh, I know exactly where this is at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
been
the
there?
Disney one.
Yeah.
No, it was on as like an episode I just watched like probably a week ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So he's gone back to his roots even more.
Yeah.
Neil encouraged me not to simply sit in front of a camera and prattle on about why I'd be a good candidate for the show. You'll need to make things interesting. Talk your way into a place or fool somebody. That's what the show is going to be all about. So, and actually what he ends up doing is he actually talks his way into Disney.
Yeah,
like
that's where
without
the
a
thing
ticket.
is.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
really?
I mean, like for the show, he sent in an audition tape for Neil. That's what he ended up having to do. All right, back to it. Basically, okay, so we left off obviously where he so Neil wants him to do something interesting to get to audition for this show that he's got. I think he said that him and his buddy went there and then he pretended like his brother was asthmatic and that they'd like left his inhaler in there, so they actually let him through, and that's how they used that video to end up getting him on that show, that sports show. Back to the book.
What was the sports show? I've never heard of it.
I actually don't. Oh, it's called Beg, Borrow, and Deal. So basically,
obviously didn't make it too long.
I don't think so. Although this was like, how old were you in 2006?
Ooh, 13.
Yeah. So like back in that, you're like, would you have been watching a sports show? Probably not. You'd probably be at fucking school. No. Back to the book. I already knew that when Neil calls, interesting and immoral things often follow. But in this particular occasion, Neil's bat signal found me far from home. I had just completed a year-long gauntlet to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro and was about to reward myself by going on a safari with my mates. My professional plans beyond this involved getting as drunk as possible on a beach in Zanzibar. Neil would have to wait. I touched down in Los Angeles a few weeks later. Neil had since emailed me frantically, demanded that I contact him as soon as I landed. I called from the baggage claim at LAX, and he welcomed me with home with a touching, "Where the hell have you been?" And told me to come straight to his office. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. So basically, Neil's like freaking out because he decided to go party instead of figure out what the heck Neil wanted. So, Neil's about to tell him what he wants.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you think you should blow off producers and stuff?
Well, Neil has a big head. Sounds like he needed to be put in his place.
I guess you're right. On this particular day, Neil is sitting in an oversized executive. So he goes to meet Neil at his office or whatever. So on this particular day, Neil is sitting in an oversized executive chair, stroking a kitten like Ernest Bullfield. The dry erase
or like
board.
Dr. Evil.
Good. I'll cut that together so you get I get that. But anyway. The dry erase board seems to have been wiped almost clean, save for a title of a questionable home makeover show concocted by Neil. Written in thick blue marker are the words "Extreme African Village." I can't even bring myself to ask, and I simply pray that it isn't the project that I've been summoned for. It's man. I mean, that's
terrible.
I know. That does not sound good. And of course, this was like in 2006, so it probably, less horrible implications, but still pretty bad.
Yeah.
I tip a chair forward, spilling out a couple of felines and take a seat. I'm filthy. My beige safari shirt is streaked with dirt and my red beard has been growing for over a month. I actually have one of those those neck beards at this point, which makes me look like a grimy Civil War reenactor. So Neil, quote, "I've sold a show to SYFY that I want you to host," Neil says flatly. "It'll be a few years before the channel becomes SYFY, courtesy of a transformative rebranding that trades in 2 full-time vowels for part-time vowels." That was a mouthful. Thank you, Josh Gates, for that one.
Yeah, that was a titty tongue twister. Isn't that what you call them?
Yeah. So what's the concept, I ask? "It's about a guy who goes around the world hunting monsters." He smiles. I let that soak in for a few seconds. I proceed to point out that my resume doesn't exactly read like Van Helsing. Though I'm well-traveled to date, I have little experience that would qualify to work with monsters, other than serving overpriced steaks to professional magicians. "You're perfect," Neil explains. "They don't want a nut. They want a real traveler, a guy who isn't afraid to turn some rocks over, someone funny." I'm not taking any of this very seriously. You have to understand that almost every conversation about potential projects in Hollywood is a conversation about nothing. Industry people make a second career out of discussing things that are in the works, which is honestly another thing that I found incredibly true after I read the book, because that's when I started in my own field of film and television.
What was it? 10 by 10?
What?
Your field.
My fucking guy. Just kidding. Jesse, excuse me, I need to take a fucking sip of.
Is that alcohol? Should be.
No, dude, if that was, I'd be lit right now. I swear to God, though. But yeah, no, like a lot of things that producers talk about is usually just a bunch of bullshit that'll never actually happen.
Yeah, blowing smoke up your ass.
Mm-hmm. There's an entire anthology of phrases like that are utterly meaningless. People might tell you that they have a few projects cooking, eating a Quiznos later, some exciting meetings coming up, blood bank at 1 p.m., or are changing their representation, moving back in with their parents. The idea that I've got a shot at being a modern day TV Indiana Jones isn't something that I'm willing to consider with any amount of gravitas.
That's literally what he became, though.
Exactly, which is why you never want to scoff at any of those things, though.
That's a good way to describe him.
Yeah, as like a fucking
Indiana Jones,
modern day TV Indiana Jones. I mean, he even does that too. Doesn't he wear that hat now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he
has forever. Yeah.
That is, he does do that. Neil says, "Go to this address tomorrow at 11 a.m. I reach over and take a Post-it note out of Neil's hand. "Oh, and don't change your clothes. Don't even shower. Come in just like this." So he literally got off the plane at LAX after being in, Africa for freaking like months and months. And basically the guy's just like, "No, man, you're going in what you're wearing." I begin to protest and Neil cuts me off. "Just like this. Trust me. I relent, surrendering to the idea into another night in these filthy clothes. The whole thing feels like it's shaping up to be a disaster. But hey, at least I'm not hosting Extreme African Village." Because he's not, luckily for him. Now we're on to chapter 4, where Josh is going to be heading to the casting call. He's going to basically be doing his audition, and unbeknownst
the
to
casting couch.
This is better than that. Josh shows up at the SYFY offices, and at this time, SYFY is already has a huge reality hit on their hands with a show called Ghost Hunters. For all those familiar, Ghost Hunters centers around two Roto-Rooter plumbers turned professional paranormal investigators.
That's quite the.
It is the truth, though. That's what they do. No, they were like, even in the beginning of those shows, it would always be like, they're like, by day, we're two plumbers, and then they have like their freaking van, and they're all standing all cool next to it, and then they're like,
yeah. All right. They must have been on like hella Adderall. How are they going out every single day working as plumbers? They're pumping them up with those Joe Biden drugs.
You've never actually seen.
I've seen Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
And I thought that you said
I don't like it. I don't like ghosts, man.
Why not? Tell me why you don't like ghosts again. Every time you tell me, I just can't believe you. You're such a. Come on, tell me one. Come on.
I don't like it.
Yeah, is it scary?
It scares me. Yeah.
Okay, that's why. Jesse, we got to change that. Got to change that.
Okay, yeah. Then we're talking about the Ouija board falls down magically in your closet. No one fucking touched it.
It's probably because it's just I didn't put it away well enough.
It just fell.
See, it's funny because you go the opposite. Somebody who is just like, nah, dude, you just put it in the thing and it just tipped over because it wasn't.
You hadn't even touched it in forever, though.
Well, no, I mean that time I went in and I looked at it. We looked at it. Okay, maybe you're right. I don't know, because a couple of times we tried to get rid of it and it just kept showing up back in that closet. I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Okay, I was like,
you're like, Pat, get out of there. Actually, what's funny?
Did you bring it with you on your move?
No,
you left it there.
I don't even know what happened to it. Actually,
what?
That would be because we moved out and like I knew it was in there still, and then I was like, I might have just left it. I might have just been like. So now whoever owns that house now, dude, they're gonna go up there. They're gonna be like, dude, let's put some.
Can you imagine if you just like moved into your house and you found one? You'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you'd be like, oh no. Especially like, oh, I should have done like some stuff where I like burned like all this stuff like a pentagram or something crazy. Just these guys.
Whoa.
I'm getting a little carried away.
Hey,
no, it's really.
Hey.
You need the road, don't you need the you need the little Jesus on there to make it.
That's Catholic.
Work. I know, but I think that they're like right now, just the regular cross doesn't scare away the demons. I think you need the Jesus on the cross to do that.
No. The only Jesus on the cross is in Catholicism.
Exactly, and that's what stops them.
Well, I'm Catholic.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
Swear, yeah, that's how I was raised.
I mean, I believe you. I'm just giving you shit. But what's okay? So the funny part,
I know. Though, you mother efforts with that damn Ouija board.
Yeah, and then who knows, man? Who knows where it is now, though? So, but in the following years, the channel will develop Ghost Hunters International, Ghost Hunters Live, and most recently, Ghost Hunters Academy.
We're gonna go to college to be ghost hunters.
It's really funny though because. Funny. No, they actually did do that. It was like they're like, oh, these are our whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great financial investment.
Yeah. I mean, they did. Yeah, that was pretty much like the bulk of what SYFY was doing for the like 2000s and early 2010s.
Well, I mean, now it's on Discovery Plus.
Oh, really? They have Ghost Hunters?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. New seasons. There's like spinoffs of Ghost Hunters and everything.
They all
I don't think any of the people who went to Ghost
Hunters
blah 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 Academy
yeah
really got anywhere, but
all right, so back to the book. I arrived nearly half an hour before my meeting. After parking, I ascend to the main plaza, craning my head up up the looming Universal Tower. The building is a slate-colored rhomboid block that looks about as inviting as a steel coffin. It appears indefinitely harder to climb than Mount Kilimanjaro, and for the first time, I've started feeling extremely nervous about all of this. In the Astura lobby, Yeah, exactly. So he's freaking out because he'd literally rather go into like, you know, a really deep canyon or climb a mountain instead of having to
Then
go to
go
a
into a
bloody ocean.
meeting.
Yep.
Dude, yeah, no, like interviews like
Yeah, dude,
are
that just
super
sucks.
nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is it? Because you can like, you can't control what other people think, but you can control climbing up a mountain. You're in charge of your own
Well, I think
destiny.
that's the entire thing of life. You can't
Yeah.
control what other people do. You can only control what you do.
Yeah.
And then when you get out of control or you can't control something, it scares you. It scares
Very
me.
good.
That's from
Very,
personal experience.
yeah. That's very good insight, Jesse. I like that. I proceed to the security desk to check in. The guard looks up and down at me and furrows his brow. For a moment, I'm unsure what to make of his expression until I realize that he thinks I must be a vagrant. I've taken Neil's advice and not changed any of my clothes from the day before, and I'm so tired from the flight that I even fall asleep with my boots on. Now I'm stinking to high hell and looking like a trained hobo. He glances down at
With
my
a dick
feet.
on his face because he fell asleep with the shoes on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Jesse, your jokes are too crisp, too quick. I can't follow.
I'm pretty dang quick off the cuff.
You'll be the host of the next one.
Okay.
Now I'm stinking to I already said that. He glances down at my feet, no doubt wondering if I'm going to pee on the lobby floor. I fork over my ID and he prints out a pass for me, clearly surprised to find me in the computer system. All right, so he goes up to the thing. Basically, he walks into the lobby or the SYFY offices. Everything looks like it's from a 2001 Space Odyssey, very, crisp, clean. And I peek into the waiting area at my competition. 3 other candidates, all of whom are wearing nice suits. I haven't had a chance to smell them yet, but I'm reasonably certain that they've showered too. These guys regard me with a combination of amusement and pity. I picked up a copy of SYFY magazine and tried to distract myself by delving into an in-depth profile piece on MacGyver, star Richard Dean Anderson. I glance up. No, the probably the old TV show.
Well.
Yeah.
No, MacGyver came out before then. The movie came out then.
I thought it was a TV show.
Yeah, the movie came out though too.
Oh. Well, anyway, the star of that show. Yeah. Star of the show, whatever. I glance up to take a better stock of the trio. Along with being well dressed, they all strike me as well, a little like game show hosts. I'm not exactly recovering my confidence, but I'm feeling marginally secure that these men do not represent the best and the brightest adventurers, or of American monster hunters, not adventurers. One by one, they are beckoned down the hall and out of this antiseptic space dock. They're gone for what feels like an eternity, and by the time I hear my name called, I know just about everything there is to know about Richard Dean Anderson. Josh, they're ready for you. I'm led into an office at the far end of the hall. As I enter, I'm horrified by how many people are crammed into this room. All of them look up at me, and aside from Neil, none of them are smiling. Have you ever been in like a big room where you got to do like a presentation or something? Yeah. So right now, Josh, the poor guy, is in a complete deer in headlights moment here. Though it is impossible for me to determine everyone's title, there is no question as to who's running the show. Mark Stern, the senior vice president of the channel, is the only person who looks comfortable in here, a sure sign that this is his domain. I reach out to shake his hand, and he invites me to sit down. Stern is one of those people who who really look at you when you speak to him. It's as complimentary as it is unnerving, which is, I suspect, just how he likes it.
Oh, yeah, he's like Donald Trump, likes to be in control.
Yeah, the big
wig. It's a control thing, back again.
I'm getting a pretty good once-over from the whole group and feeling compelled to break the ice. Hi, I manage. Let me start by apologizing for my appearance. I just got off a plane from Tanzania. Smiles all around. As perceptible, good Lord, I can't even read this bloody thing.
That's
perceptible sea change is underway. These people suddenly detect an authenticity to me. We talk for a few minutes. I recount my exploits on Mount Kilimanjaro and discuss my interest in travel. I'm hoping that someone will bring up Richard Dean Anderson, but no such luck. I can't really tell how the interview is going, so I just do my best to come off appropriately adventurous. Stern's half smirk reveals that he can see right through my bullshit, but there's a warmth there too. Under less formal circumstances, I suspect we get along great. I also have a few nice exchanges with Rob Schwartz, the affable development executive in charge of this project. At this point, the only thing that I know for sure is that these people no longer consider my dirty beard and tattered shirt to potential markings of a deranged serial killer. After all it's over, I shake hands with the network brass and walk out of the office. Neil sees me to the elevator and tells me that I did well. I step inside and put my hand up to hold the closing doors. What's the pilot called anyway? Destination Truth. Now go take a shower, he says. You stink. So that was how his first...
That's how it became to be what he is now.
That's how he became to be. And of course, like right now, at least at the end of this chapter, like most things, he's gone to a ton of interviews. He's gone to a ton of these type of pitch decks. Maybe not these type, but, he's been a part of things all this time and he's feeling a lot better now, but you never really know what's actually going to happen, right? Now we move on to chapter 5 called We Found Something.
How many chapters are we going through here?
This is the last one for now.
Okay.
We're going to don't worry, I'm not going to keep you forever. I know how important your time is. So Josh has successfully scored the show, but the Sci-Fi Channel is looking to do a pilot. Before this, Neil had actually done a really bad short pilot where he was doing a bunch of weird creature reenactments and
oh my God,
stuff like that.
Terrible.
So, yeah. So the Sci-Fi is willing to pick up the show for a pilot, but it doesn't necessarily want to use the one that Neil had already made. So they basically tell Josh, hey, we're going to send you to Malaysia because they found a bunch of, they found what they say were reports of a Bigfoot. So now they've gotten together a little team of producer, camera person, basically a small skeleton crew. Yep.
I'll tell you after.
No problem. So they come up with a skeleton crew and they're all going to be headed to Malaysia to go hunting for Bigfoot-esque creatures that have been making local headlines. Once this motley crew assembles, Neil loosely directs a sequence where we pack gear and discuss the recent Malaysia sightings, which is and this little scene that they do ends up being a really integral part of just how the format of Destination Truth goes. If you watch any of them, they always start what do we got today? And they get oh, we got reports of a dinosaur-like creature in the Congo or something, and then they do a bunch of pack up their gear, head on out, get to the airport, blah, blah, blah. So this actually becomes an integral part of what they do. All this is being filmed in my living room, remember? I kick a stack of dirty laundry aside, frisbee a Domino's pizza box into the kitchen, and tack a world map on the wall in a desperate attempt to transform my tiny bungalow into Team Truth headquarters. MI6 it is not, but there is an authenticity, I suppose. I do live here, after all. Before we start filming, I asked Neil what to wear for the show, whereupon he promptly rifles through my closet. He picks out a motorcycle jacket and jeans. It will not be until much later in the heat of Malaysia that I realize thick leather and denim are not sensible jungle attire. The living room show. Yeah. So basically, they're all right, we're about to go to Malaysia. So they get him in a cool bad boy outfit and they all send him off. Hours later, I'm sitting in the dim cabin of a Singapore Airlines jumbo jet somewhere over the endless Black Pacific. Even though the aircraft's tracking map on the seat back in front of me indicates that we're en route to Singapore, I'm in a state of giddy denial as I gaze out at the blanket of stars outside my window. Reminds me, the way he's talking about it, going on a Singapore Airlines across the Pacific, really reminds me when I went to Thailand. Just I don't know, man, it's crazy. It's just really interesting overall. But anyway, so they're headed to Thailand.
Why is it interesting?
Oh, just it's another way that I kind of relate to it. And just hearing that, I'm I felt that intense emotion of being flying over the ocean about to go to some crazy foreign place.
See, the way I look at it is when you're in a different place, life keeps going on.
Yeah.
No matter what. You experience this, wherever you are now, but then you fly over the pond or wherever you go, it's going the exact same every single day, but you're not there to experience it, which is very weird.
Right, dude? Like, what is that? Like, well, it's kind of like
FOMO?
that. Yeah, a little bit. I was gonna say, like, when you were younger, did you ever like have that feeling where you were like, when I'm not around my friends or whatever, like that they don't exist?
No, but I got this feeling like when I left from college and went to school in Texas. I was like, I leave here from Colorado, but I live in Texas, but like life happens every single day here, and I'm not here to experience it. That was really hard for me to like grasp my mind over.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't know why, but
was it just because you were sad that you weren't also experiencing like the life in Texas?
Well, I think it's just because I wanted to experience everything all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, dude, yeah, that's the problem with the human condition, man.
Yep.
So they land in Singapore. The sterility of present-day Singapore and its draconian legal system have made it somewhat of a letdown to many an adventure traveler. I myself am not a huge fan of any place that threatens to arrest and beat the shit out of you for spitting gum on the ground. Still, if you're in the market for a Gucci handbag or a pair of Jimmy Choo stilettos, it's just the spot. Now, NBC, parent of SYFY, has mandated that we be accompanied due to recent political upheavals in part of the country. So we exit the terminal and meet with our local security consultant who will guide us across the border of Malaysia to Johor Bahru, the city nearest to the recent sightings. So remember, they're going to go for a pilot with no plan, by the way. It probably explains that more in here, but they really have no plan as to like what they're actually going to do when they get there. They just are going to go looking for Bigfoot, essentially. So subsequent experiences taught me that these security consultants come in only two varieties: trained killers and trained monkeys. Half the time, they are indispensable assets who speak regional dialects, navigate complex local customs, and offer practical advice for staying out of trouble. The other half of the time, they turn out to be armed goons who are just as apt to accidentally shoot the client as they are to protect them. In this particular case, we're saddled up with a guy named Captain Gupta, and he's exhibiting early signs that we may not be able to be in the safest hands of the Southeast Asia. I look on in disbelief as he gets lost trying to guide our Jeep out of the airport. Despite it being a 25-minute drive, he manages to take 3 wrong turns on the way to the Malaysian border and even stops to ask for directions at a local prison. I feel even safer. So, yeah, the local guides, that's kind of something that you have to have for the most part just to like navigate everywhere. But this guy's absolute train wreck.
Well, yeah, even back then they had iPhones.
In like 2006? I think this is 2006.
I think that's when the first iPhone came out.
But this is Malaysia. We're talking Malaysia.
I don't care.
Just, they don't, I don't know. Malaysia doesn't have iPhones now.
But Josh should have had an iPhone, and he could have.
I don't know about that.
He could have done some, you know.
Well, we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes, right? So we check into a hotel that looks like it's been shelled by artillery fire and meet in Neil's room to begin our operations in earnest. Bags are unzipped and equipment spills out like entrails across the open floor. I attach a microphone to my shirt and slip the transmitter into my pocket, fingering the power switch. We've been in... Not like that. The G-spot? Not like that. We've been in motion for days, spanning the planet at half the speed of sound, driven across an international border, all to arrive at this moment, heralded by a tiny gesture that nobody else in the room observes. As the device clicks on, I sense that the microphone is now alive and waiting patiently for me to feed it. My previous fear that... Well, he's basically describing him turn on.
Was it patient?
What?
It's an inanimate object. How can it be patient?
Don't worry. This is just Josh's very eloquent way of speaking about
his satire.
Yeah. Well, he's talking about his lavalier microphone, which
I know.
Yeah, he's about to talk into. It's happening right now. 100 light bulbs come on at once. I see this pilot for what it really is, a completely unscripted television show where 2 cameras record my every move as I lead a team into the jungle looking for potentially dangerous animal. I look down at the microphone and swallow hard. Here we go. So now this is the part that kind of gets crazy. According to Josh, these guys don't have any real plan, which is a typical of a pilot. There's some hiccups starting out. They don't actually have permission to film in the area that they're going, which is going to be in this this national park. So basically they have this.
They're like, the Malaysians don't care. They don't even know what we're doing.
Well, so they have to drive.
The US.
They have to drive to the Nandu Ropin National Park, where the where all these sightings are, and they're supposed to find a guy named Mr. Chu in order to get like permission to do this. So, but they have to drive into the park and find him. So they have to go to a national park and find some random guy that may or may not be there, and they don't even have permission to enter the park. So, to the book, the road is an absolute disaster. Deep ruts and thick mud cause the Jeep to buck and slip as we head into the interior. A wooden bridge moans under our weight, and I look at the side view mirror as a board behind us tumbles into the gorge. The sun is low in the sky when we are finally arrived. The camp turns out to be some sort of research station perched beside a broad river. A few thatched huts shelter wooden tables, microscopes, and piles of paper. It looks abandoned, and I can't help but feel as though I've been wandered into a set from Tarzan. Mr. Chu comes scampering across a rope bridge above the water. I can tell that it's him, since he's yelling at us in Malay, waving his arms angrily at the cameras. You no have permission to be here. Well, this is off to a fine start. After lowering the cameras and letting him cool off a little, he relents and allows us to remain. So basically, they get to the camp, and this dude is not too happy to actually have them there, which, you know.
But he told them to go there, so this makes
their guide was like, this is where we're going to find this guy. So basically,
Mr. Chu didn't even know they were going there.
Or Mr. Chu, yeah, he was not prepared for them. The best Mr. Chu can offer. So now they're like basically had driven from their hotel into this random park that they had to go and deal with, and they have no plan still. The best Mr. Chu can offer us is 3 unoccupied cabins overlooking the camp. Content with the knowledge that we have someplace to lay our heads, we happily peel off our sweat-soaked clothes to swim in the river and clean up before dark. The heat is like a blanket, and as we dry off quickly on the banks, a 5-foot snake descends through the canopy above me and slithers along the ground into the water. This will be my last swim. So, have you ever you ever been to the jungle?
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
I've always wanted to. Loved it.
Basically, how they describe it as being absolutely muggy and just full of like crazy, creepy crawlies and stuff is exactly how it is.
I mean, I lived in Houston.
Yeah, it's basically Houston, but on steroids.
Yeah.
So, twilight incites a nearly deafening hum of insects as the jungle comes alive. Mosquitoes begin biting my neck and moths punch me in the face as I head to one of the cabins. Cabin might be a generous term, actually. The buildings are actually 7-foot by 7 plywood shacks with nothing in them but a wooden platform elevated about 4 feet off the floor. It's right around this time that I hear Neil screaming. He peels out of his room and through the open door, and I can see a spider the size of a dinner plate clinging to the wall. My mouth falls open as I go in for a closer look. And it's funny, too, because I also had an encounter like this with a huntsman spider, which are like...
You did?
Yeah, in Taiwan.
They had huntsmen? They have huntsmen there? I thought they were only in Australia.
No, they're all the Southeast Asia, like all of that. And those puppies are like, they're scuttlers, dude. Like, yeah, they're like like a railroad tie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you like looked at if you're like looking at the big
cross section.
Yeah, like that's how big it was. Like the whole thing, crazy.
Man, you smash that, you'd feel it, like.
Dude, yeah, and the thing is, they're fucking fast too. Like, I tried to hit mine with a broom, like a really shitty broom, and that thing just like I could hear it go away from me.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Terrible.
It's a huntsman spider with a leg span of nearly a foot, although from where I'm standing, it looks suspiciously like a facehugger from Alien. Neil is nearly inconsolable and pleads with Mr. Chu for better accommodations. There are none to be had. To make matters worse, Gupta, our appointed security guard, has fallen asleep against a tree. With the realization that the rest of us aren't going to bed anytime soon, we set to work for the night. Our plan is to interview eyewitnesses in the nearby village and then canvass as much of the surrounding jungle as possible, scanning for physical evidence. To aid in this effort, we're packing a night vision scope, infrared cameras that let us see in the dark, and a thermal imaging camera used to detect natural radiation and thereby illuminate living things. The last gizmo is especially handy since tigers and other predators are known to lurk in Malaysia's interior. So they're in this park, and it's full of critters, full of stuff, you know. So they're pretty well spec'd out, though. They've got some good equipment to do all their stuff with. So Chu directs us to a neighboring Aboriginal village, and we steer the 4x4 along a primitive access road deep into the jungle. We arrive at a modest collection of houses at around 8 p.m. It's pitch black here, and we exit the vehicle to the dim view of a few dozen people sitting quietly around in the dark. Dogs are barking loudly, and babies are crying somewhere close by. There's no less than 6 people in this village who claim to have seen Bigfoot personally, or so I've been told by Gupta, who we've kicked awake to come along and translate. We're led into a small hut where a man tells me that he didn't actually see Bigfoot, but he believes he spotted a nest. He describes it in length, noting a foul smell in the area. We pinpoint the nearby region on a map and move to the next witness. I'm led into a barren 2-room house made of hastily poured concrete. An old man sits on the floor with a single candle in front of him. I sit down and we talk for a while in the flickering darkness. Behind him, I can barely make out his wife leaning motionless against the back wall, flies buzzing around her head. The man speaks to the translator in Malay for a few minutes and looks up from the candle flame when I distinctly hear the word orangutan. It looked like an orangutan, I ask. Is that what he's saying? No,
or
he says, oh, that's one of the things that they actually go looking for. Have you watched any Destination Truth?
I don't think so, but I know what the Ori Panda is.
Yeah. Well,
it's basically like a big orangutan, human-looking dude.
Yeah, it's more like it's like a 3-foot tall, more humanoid version of one. Yeah. I'm thinking they're like an offshoot of Homo florensis or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I was watching some other show and it was like the hairs that they found were like orange.
Yeah. Yeah, because
but it was in America.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what Bigfoot's like hair colors are like? It always seems like it's different between like a brownish to a reddish, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so it looked like an orangutan, I asked. Is that what he's saying? No, he says it was an orangutan. This is intriguing since these great apes, while native to Malaysia and Indonesia, are now found exclusively on the adjacent islands of Borneo and Sumatra. Fossil remains have been discovered on the Malaysian peninsula, however. It is possible that a population of orangutans could have survived here in Malaysia's interior. It seems unlikely, but I'm suddenly energized that this man, as well as several others that I speak to, apparently have had some sort of legitimate experience. I'm quickly realizing that we aren't just looking for Bigfoot. We're here to document a mystery. There may be no Bigfoot. There may be no orangutans, but there is clearly something, and I, for one, am increasingly engaged in the search. This is the first time that Josh is really like, okay, you know, like something at least is sort of going right. People are seeing something. Was it the orang pandak? Was it an orangutan? Was it the Bigfoot they were talking about? I don't know. You tell me, Jesse. But back to the book. We all look over and there in the light, we see a golf ball sized blood stain on the front of Neil's safari shirt. Niels lifts up the fabric to reveal a small puncture wound leading down from his stomach. Land leeches, Gupta says solemnly. And with that little announcement, Neil rips off every single piece of clothing he has on. Everything. He's suddenly naked and completely losing his shit. Even though the leech has already fallen off of him, There may be others, and he's not taking any chances. Basically, it kind of goes over the fact that, Neil's kind of tripping about he's not having a good time. The producer, he may be a bigwig in Hollywood, but he is definitely no adventurer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Carter and I keep all of our clothes on and our shoes for a layer of protection and slip into a mosquito net above over both of our heads. I tuck my exposed hands into my armpits and unabashedly spoon each other for dear life. So basically now I think that they're trying to go to sleep, and they're trying to deal with the terrible, horrible
creepy
conditions that they're in.
collies.
Anyway, so the next morning we decide to enlist the help of a few local investigative groups. Eric has called and arranged for them to meet us at our hotel. I emerge from the elevator bleary-eyed and taking in our eccentric recruits. Perched on a couch are three very attractive young women dressed in all black. They sit slightly alongside an older man named Uncle, who sports a mesh tank top and bright camel pants. Together, the four of them make up a paranormal group called The Seekers and boast a Malaysian television show by the same name. Uncle jumps up and comes at me fast, vigorously shaking my hand and excitedly launching into news of another recent Bigfoot sighting. His authority is mitigated slightly by the fact that I can see his nipples. The Seeker girls don't appear to speak English and seem a little glazed over. As best I can tell, the premise of the Seeker show is that Uncle cavorts around in the dark with three submissive Malaysian girls, 20 years his junior, looking for ghosts. I have no idea how he pulled off this arrangement, but the man is clearly a genius. Despite the side show's quality of their group, Uncle has a great local connection and will be a huge asset with logistics. Nearby, a rather serious-looking collection of people mill about the front. They are clearly identifiable as a group since they're all sporting matching shirts that read SPI. SPI stands for Singapore Paranormal Investigators, and while they may lack some of the Seekers' presentational flash, they seem indefinitely more scientific. Rounding out this circus is Jan McGurk, a California reporter writing for the UK newspaper The Independent. This haphazard consortium is starting to feel like the cast of a Michael Crichton novel, and I'm hoping to get through the afternoon without being party to an act of international espionage or dinosaur rampage. Now, basically, they're getting together with a bunch of this mishmash of people to go and actually look for Bigfoot stuff. As we finally double back towards the roads, now they've gone and they're on their way scouting around for prints and any evidence of the Malaysian Bigfoot. As we finally double back towards the road, I throw a last few glances at the ground and happen to notice distinct markings in the nearby mud. I do a double take, see what appears to be a toe print, and quickly swat through the brush to get a better look. I call over the reporter, who happens to be standing close to me. We both crouch down in disbelief at what is now unmistakably a footprint-shaped cavity. "Carter," I scream out, "get the camera over here." Before I know it, I'm surrounded by people staring down at a 17-inch long mystery print. We scour for more, but the patch of mud in the surrounding earth is hardened with few indistinct impressions. A Seeker girl pipes up and says something along the lines of, "Now what?" Good question. It never occurred to me that anything like this would actually happen. I'm at an absolute loss for what to do next. My salvation appears in the form of a slight-statured Singaporean girl from SPI who quietly says, "We should cast it." I crane up from the dirt. "Hold on, do we have casting powder?" "Yes," she says enthusiastically, adding, "but I'm not really sure how to use it." She hands me a box of powder marked State Crime Lab. Even though I don't have any clue how to use this stuff, it's starting to get dark here in Tiger Town, and nobody else is taking the reins. I'm not all that keen about being eaten alive, and I'm pretty sure I've seen enough episodes of CSI to pull this off. I make quick work of the mixture, mixing the powder with the bottled water, and once the mix is consistent of pancake batter, I begin to fill in the impression. It seems as though it's going to take some time to harden, so I quickly wash off my hands and grab the satellite phone out of Eric's bag. I rush into the middle of the empty road looking for signal. I breathlessly punch in Neil's cell phone number and listen impatiently as the other end rings. "Hello? Neil, it's Josh. We found something." As it goes, they end up casting this print. They end up getting a little bit of a, so to speak, a media press tour. They end up getting that print together, and this is kind of rounds out the success of the fact that they actually filmed this pilot. And that's where we're going to leave it off here. But, you know, from Josh being able to, you know, actually take his wants and his talents into the real world and virtually become this, like, the television figure we see today is kind of crazy. Do you find that inspiring?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I've always liked him. Some of his terrible jokes on the TV shows, though, I'm like, that was not needed or scripted, or I don't know.
Yeah. See, that's what I think. He does have,
but
like,
I also do the cringy jokes as well. So
yeah. And I think, of course, like, that just kind of comes with, he's a good humored dude. He's trying to keep it
lighthearted is what you would say.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Lighthearted. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Skeptical Eye for the Paranormal Guys with Jesse, talking about Memoirs of a Monster Hunter by Josh Gates. Chapters 1 through 5, we will be coming back at some point to do the rest of the book, chapters by chapters, but stay tuned for that shit. Still be dope.
Keep it spooky.